Welcome, everybody. I want to be mindful of our time. Let's rock and roll and dive in. Obviously, the theme of the day is personal well-being when work-life balance is BS. How many of you feel like you hear all the time about work-life balance? Oh, if you can just achieve work-life balance, oh, we all need to be better at work-life balance. It's my signature keynote I give. Balance is BS. How do we thrive in the unique tensions of municipal life and leadership? And I'm not going to give you the keynote today. I'm going to give you the workshop. I'm going to give you really what I hope to be a new posture and a framework to help you not only lead yourself, not only assess yourself, but really think about the people you lead, because that's one of the biggest issues. In fact, I'm just going to say this. There are three people on this call today. There are first the people who are hesitant to be here. Maybe you've been told to be here. Maybe you're a part of one of the organizations that's whole leadership team is going through this, and you're like, work-life balance. I hear about this all the time. Man, I'm good. If you looked up work-life balance in the dictionary, it would have your picture there as the shining example of perfection. You've nailed it. In fact, we'll turn the webinar over to you at the end, and you can tell us all your secrets. Here's the reality, though, and I think I remember when I was young, and I've always been really driven and really energetic, and I didn't understand when when people like got really sick and like, I'd have friends that would get mono, or I'd hear about someone who's like, oh, I couldn't get out of bed for a few days. And I'm like, dude, that is just not, I grew up on a ranch with a dad who was like, unless you were literally dead, you were getting up and you were going to go help do the work. And so I just didn't understand it until my first master's degree in New York. I was in New York studying orchestral conducting, and I got super sick. It's so sick that if I tried to even sit up, I would like pass out. And so, in this whole like, it was like 5 days of this, just crazy. I went to the doctors. They didn't know what was going on with me. And I just remember that it just gave me a new perspective on what it felt like to be almost helpless and sick to a level I've never been sick at. Same thing years later. I went to Honduras, came back, got some crazy virus, and just couldn't eat anything. Just felt totally out of control. And I think for leaders, that's the issue when you encounter something that you've never really encountered, an experience that debilitates you, that takes control or the ability to act kind of away from you. It's really eye-opening. And that's what I hope today, for you who kind of think maybe this is a waste of time because I think I'm doing okay. The issue is you're a leader and you lead people. And those people, as a leader, you already operate at a higher level. It's like a performance race car versus an everyday commuter car. And that's not to say you're better, or again, it's not a judgment position. It's just that's why you're a leader. You operate at a higher level. You see things differently. That's what's put you in the position you're in. The people around you aren't at that. And so while they're in third gear and they're tired in third gear, you're in sixth gear, wanting to get to seventh gear, trying to figure out, right? And you can look around and you can not realize that your posture, your framework is hurting your organization. It's one thing to inspire people to grow. It's another to not be aware of how you are pushing them into burnout and into places of unhealth that's impacting your actual ability to make impact. So that's what I wanted you to think about today. There's some of you who are hesitant today, maybe thinking you don't need this. There's some of you who are, let's be honest, you're kind of despondent. You thought the holidays was going to give you some refreshment and some re-energy, and you are still tired. You are closer to burnout than towards health. It's funny. It seems like everyone has gotten sick coming out of Christmas and New Year. I got sick. I was all ready to gung ho. It's gonna be great. We get all this work done. I came to this crazy cold, couldn't record podcasts. Was just like I'm so far behind. Like things, life happens, and so wherever you're at on that pendulum, there's the hesitant today, there's the despondent, and then there's everyone else who's on the pendulum. And the reality is of the pendulum, you have different days. Some days are high and great, And some days are low and you're exhausted, you're overwhelmed, you feel closer to burnout. And the reality is in municipal leadership, you might feel that pendulum swing inside the same day. You go into a meeting with team and you're like, awesome. You go into a meeting with city council and you're like, how am I going to make it tomorrow? And so these are the dynamics that we live in. So what I want to do today is help us. Here is, let's see, I got to make sure that I'm on this. Here's our primary objective. How can I help you release an unworkable standard and replace it with a healthier, more honest way of leading yourself and others in a role and context that never fully shuts off? That's what one of the things I think that we have to really embrace and and be mindful of as we deal with any kind of framework or training is municipal leadership is a unique environment. This unique thing in the public sector is a reality that others don't face. Now, again, we won't waste time thinking about every other context, but it's not a 9 to 5. A city doesn't sleep. You are, and I think it's because the services that you deliver are not only impacting people in very essential ways, but they create an emotional reality because these are things that are about people's lives. These are their homes, the businesses, the places they live, they play, their neighbors, the community. I mean, there's so many things that are. It's deeper than Amazon. If Amazon shuts down tomorrow, we're still going to figure out how to eat and how to buy our stuff. It's really secondary things. Cities offer I mean, these are the primary water, sewer, trash. Without those, how are people living? I mean, life turns into chaos real fast. So, here's what I want us to think about. If achieving work-life balance was actually possible in municipal leadership, most of you, I think, wouldn't still feel tired, wouldn't feel stretched, wouldn't feel behind despite being highly accomplished individuals. All of you are highly accomplished individuals, leaders, and yet we can still feel tired and overwhelmed and exhausted. So let's see, I'm going to put up a poll. Let's try this fancy technology. Answer this poll. What best describes how your leadership has felt recently? Constantly on, rarely fully present, carrying responsibility beyond your role, doing well externally, but you're feeling the stretch internally. Maybe it's steady, but there's a little you're struggling with the margins. Where are you creating the space? Or maybe you're in a season of real sustainability, of real health, of real vibrance. Again, where do you feel in that? So we can kind of get a feel of where people are on the spectrum. Which one resonates with you? Good. Yeah. Again, all over the place. This is good. Doing well, stretch internally. No one yet has put in a season of real sustainability. And maybe that's the reality of municipal leadership is, right? We just have a lot going on. It never feels, I think maybe every time you feel like you have like you're kind of getting ahead, then something happens, and that's the reality of municipal leadership specifically. And we'll talk about that in just a second. Now, let's set up some key framing real quick. First, the session is not about doing less. I'm not here to give you permission to, become lazy by any means, and I know that's not you. This also isn't about escaping responsibility. How are we able to just say no so we can just do the things that we want to do, that we're passionate about? It's just not the reality of life or leadership. The third thing, and maybe the most important thing for you to hear right now in January, this is not about fixing your schedule. I think there's a lot of how many of you have been tempted? Maybe you put in the chat which one of the new planners you're going to use. Is it the Michael Hyatt planner? Is it the what is it? The big ass calendar. That's been the thing that's just inundated my social media. Have you seen that? It's a really cool calendar, actually. It like shows like 4 feet wide. It like shows everything for the year that's going on. There's all these tools that people think if I just find the right tool, I'll be able to get ahead of my schedule. I'll be able to figure out how to do life and work better. This is not about that. I'm not interested in fixing your schedule. What I am interested in doing is helping you reframe what well-being looks like. I want you to think about how do I reframe this work-life balance? Instead of balance is leadership capacity. Do I have the capacity to lead myself and to help others lead themselves? Remember this: healthy things grow and dying things decay. Healthy things grow, dying things decay. We don't want to be dying, and the signs of that are what's decaying in our life, our relationships, our impact, our creativity. Am I growing in relationships, in impact, in creativity? Healthy things grow, dying things decay. So you're not here to leave with a perfect plan. I hope you are here. Here we go, if I can get the slides to work. You are here to leave with a healthier internal posture. I want you to think about that, the posture, and then a framework to use as you move forward. Okay, the problem with balance, facts and myths. Think about this: municipal leadership is constantly interrupted. You guys feel that? Like, we all, the servant leader has an open door policy, and yet then you're constantly interrupted with things, people. You have things change. In fact, I had a conversation, I think one of the podcasts we recorded this week. We talked about the local level of government is so inundated with the chaos from the national, federal level, and the state level. Policies are created, changes are made, and guess what? That plays out at the local level. You've got to figure out then how to adjust budgets, how to implement policies that oftentimes are you can tell me if you resonate with this. Oftentimes, it feels like policies are created by people that just think all day and have never actually figured out how to implement anything. It's like, how do you want us to do this? I mean, that's probably one of the biggest conversations I have as I interact with city managers and county administrators. Is there's just so much that we have to figure out how to implement from these ideas that come down from the people from state and federal. You have constant interruptions. You have public scrutiny. I mean, think about that. On a level, it's not like we can all get on social media and complain about Amazon prices or right whatever private sector company. People get to show up at City Hall and tell you exactly how they feel without many details and with all the emotional chaos that they bring to the table. It's also politically influenced. The politics of again state, federal, local all play out, and in today's hypercharged political environment, that's a massive stress. And so I think we just need to admit these things. We need to admit what the context is that we're trying to figure out how to do personal well-being inside of for yourself and for your team. Now, here's the problem with balance. Balance first, I mean, I could go on all day about work and life. How does work become very defined and life is just everything else? I mean, isn't work a part of your life? So why are these against each other? We can go into details about that, but let's think about this. Balance assumes an equal distribution of time and energy, right? If I just figure out the perfect amount of how much time to give this, how much time to give this, how much energy, how do I make sure these two sides are equal? It also assumes that there's clear on and off boundaries, right? That you clock in at 9, you clock out at 5, and you don't think about work when you do life. What kind of world is that? Especially for a leader in municipal life. Again, because you have evening meetings, you have weekend community events, you have emergencies and crises and all kinds of things that interrupt. And again, the snowstorm, that doesn't call you and say, we're going to try to be there at 4, but if we're a little late, you have to do some overtime. It always comes at like midnight, and the tornado comes at 3 in the morning. I mean, it's just always, it's just such a unique reality. So there's no clear on and off boundaries. In fact, we're going to talk about boundaries in our March session. Next month's session is burnout. How do we really see the signs of burnout, especially in the people that we lead? How do we create cultures that try to fight against intentionally against burnout? So burnout boundaries, that's coming up. Balance also assumes a control that leaders do not actually have. It's a fable. We all want control. We all want things to be in our grasp. That's something we feel secure and comfortable. But the reality is we really have little control. And those are the things that can bring massive stress. When leaders chase balance, hear this. I want you to hear this. I want you to chew on this. Tell me if you resound with this. Maybe you can tell me how you feel about this in the chat. When leaders chase balance, they often experience guilt when work intrudes on their life, or they experience guilt when life intrudes on their work. Think about that. Think about how many family dinners are interrupted by phone calls, how many events are missed because an emergency city county council meeting. Um, think about how you feel when you want to say yes to work, but all of a sudden you also have a flute recital or a vacation planned. I mean, these are all the things that life has for you. What do you do with that? What do you do with the pressures and the guilt and the shame, the constant sense, the constant sense of failing people, falling short? I think this is the big thing that I don't like about work-life balance is usually it's about people pleasing. It's about making the people at work happy and making the people in the other areas of my life happy. And I think that is what I'm trying to get us to avoid. We've got to get rid of that shame and start to be intentional. What are my roles and my responsibilities at work? What's unique about me and my role and what I have, my strengths, what I can actually offer in vocation, in relationships, in my personal well-being? How do I do that in more than just work and life? Because your life has more areas and aspects than that. So, the problem with balance. Let's see here. So, workbook prompt. Here's the first prompt. Where have you been measuring yourself against a standard that doesn't fit your role or your responsibility? Where have you been measuring yourself against a standard that doesn't fit your role and responsibility? Think about this as you think about that, maybe write some notes. In the Major League Baseball, again, if you, I'm not even a huge sports fan, but let's say Major League Baseball. Can you imagine a batter feeling guilt or shame if they don't hit 1,000%? I mean, I did some quick research. The the best hitter in the MLB this last year, his name is Aaron Judge. I think he plays for the Yankees. His batting average was .331 out of 1,000. 0.331. That's not a C, that's not a D, that's not an F. 30%. The two runner-ups were at .311, and there were only six players in the entire major league who hit at 300 and above. Sounds like a bunch of losers. I mean, that's what, if we just looked on paper, that's what we would think. And yet, if you know anything about baseball, that's an incredible feat. Why do we, as leaders, expect to hit 1,000%? Why are we disappointed when we're hitting 90, 80, 70? I think we live in a bubble and expectations and assumptions that we've got to be perfect, that we always have to be on, that we always have to be superhero. And it's one of the issues, the problem with this work-life balance talk. Tension is not the enemy. Leadership isn't about eliminating tension. It's about learning how to carry it without letting it erode you. Life has tension. In fact, I think tension, stress, it can actually be a good sign that you're doing something that matters. You're doing something that's important. You have decisions to make that are actually worth making. Tension isn't something that we want to get rid of. It's not something to solve. I think it's something to lean into and then to say, how can I be impactful in this personally, relationally, vocationally? Here are some unique tensions I want you to think about naming in your unique environment of municipalities. Long-term vision versus daily urgency. How many of you feel that tension? The daily urgent, all the tasks that you have to get done, as well as balancing long-term vision. Where are we going? Infrastructure, projects, future health for the community. Think about public accountability versus private fatigue, right? It's hard being on and thinking about that's why I think I connect with municipal leaders in a unique way because I was a pastor and a pastor is always on. Everyone always sees you as a pastor, whether you're at the grocery store, whether you're in a church, whether you're at home, you're always a pastor. You're always expected to be in that kind of pastoral frame of mind. Same thing I think with municipal leaders. People know you. They expect you to always be on and caring and know about every pothole, about every issue in your community. Think about the tension between caring deeply for your work, for the mission, for people, versus trying to protect your capacity because you're not the Energizer Bunny with unlimited resources and battery juice. Think about the tension between leadership responsibility, what you feel responsible for, versus limited control. You don't have full control. You're not God. You don't have full, power and autonomy. Some of the key insights, the goal is not to eliminate tension. The goal is how do we carry that without letting it erode us? That those stresses lead us towards burnout. Tension is a sign of purpose. One of the things, where's that? No, they're behind me. I use the rubber bands. I say instead of work-life balance, which feels like scales or a teeter-totter, think about a rubber band. A rubber band pushes and pulls. A rubber band is going to, you need to figure out, where do I push? Where do I pull from? It's more responsive. And a rubber band is purposeful when it has tension. And that's you, I think. How do you experience tension? How do you experience engagement? What do you give yourself to? What do you pull yourself away from? You're not weak or broken because life feels hard, because maybe you feel at times overwhelmed. You're not feeling because the tension and stress don't go away. That's also not a sign of failure. Leadership maturity is learning how to hold the competing realities, all these tensions, together. So, what tension do you avoid the most? So here's another poll. Let's see. Let's put up another poll. Oh, what's going on here? Oh, um, launch. How about this? Which tension is most present for you right now? Long-term vision versus daily urgency, public accountability, private fatigue, caring deeply versus protecting capacity, responsibility versus limited control, or other. Think about that. Think about that. What do you sense right now as you look over that list? Yeah, the daily urgency versus long-term vision, because it impacts so much, right? It's assessing all the various things, the infrastructure and how we deliver services. And you have tons of pressure every day about that, and yet you have to think about long term. I mean, it's kind of the issue in these projects that cities, counties have to undertake are so expensive. And I'm sure that that stress about now with the national scene, states. I mean, I think every day, it seems like every day there's a new article in the Seattle Times about how Washington State has no money. And it's just like, gosh, man, at the local level, you're responsible, right? No one's going to go talk to the governor about their roads. Then they can't even get access to them, but they can get access to you. And so these are the tensions. Okay, there's the results. Oh man. Okay, good. Okay, let's yeah, think about that. Think about the tensions that you're avoiding because they're overwhelming. What are those tensions in the workbook? I think this question. What is the avoidance costing you? Right? What are the things? Here's some of the tensions I want you to think about. There's relationships. There's relationships that you know are unhealthy. There are things there, maybe there's tasks and projects that you should lean into because you can have impact there, but the work is overwhelming. There's some aspect of the work that you're just uncomfortable with or gives you stress. What are you avoiding? What tensions are you avoiding? And what's one of the things to try to get breakthrough is you have to really start to look, what's this costing me? It's costing you, obviously, the biggest cost, I think, is just the continued stress it's putting on you instead of just dealing with it, instead of tackling the issue. A lot of these are personnel relationship issues that we just have to be very mindful of, I think, to say, how am I making sure I'm staying healthy and moving forward? Okay. Well, I said that workbook prompt. There you go. What are you avoiding? How do we redefine well-being for you for municipal frameworks? How do we give you a better framework that you can actually lead out of? Again, this is the keynote that I give in the rubber band. Here's what I want to talk about today. Here's what I think I'll have you take away that I think is different. Here's a new definition for well-being. Instead of thinking about work-life balance, I want you to think about well-being is the ability to lead with clarity, with presence, and endurance. I think you can write those three down in your workbook. Clarity, presence, and endurance. Clarity, presence, endurance. Let's break these down. And this is not just in your professional leadership. This is in because you're a leader in all areas of life. You're a leader in your home, with yourself personally, how you take care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally. How do you lead? And not just lead, but engage in your relationships with clarity, presence, endurance. This doesn't just apply professionally. This is every area. So let's think about these key components. I want you to think about clarity. Here's what I think when I think about clarity that's most important for you. Clarity is identity stability. Who are you and what are you giving yourself to? Do you have identity stability? One of the reasons work-life balance is so overwhelming is because I think you are trying to respond to expectations that are oftentimes not actual expectations, they are assumptions. I'm assuming that people want more from me. I'm assuming I've got to be on all the time. I'm assuming I've got to be a superhero. You have these assumptions, a lot of them are in your subconscious. Here's the issue, though. I think the foundation issue of that is identity. You are trying to appear. But here's the thing, you are amazing. And you don't have, again, batting average. You can be amazing and hit 300. You can be amazing and show up and do great work and not have to feel like you have to answer your phone every time it rings, every time it dings. You have to respond to every email in 60 seconds or less. You've got to be at every meeting. Oh, but and put in your title. I'm the community director, and they mention community in the title of this meeting, so I've got to be there. Do you? Are you actually bringing impact? What are you bringing to the meeting? Start looking at your meetings and going, I have not brought anything substantial to this meeting in months. Why am I still going? Like, I think identity stability. Where are you still seeking approval of identity instead of really, especially if you're a leader now, you've got to be one of the things as we get older is just being more rooted and going, this is who I am. These are my strengths. These are I even hate to say weaknesses. They're just the things I'm not good at or interested in or going to get better at. Like you can't be good at everything. That's just foolishness. What are you good at? What do you bring to the table? You specifically too, not just your role and what people assume, the role of a city manager, parks director, county administrator, not just what people expect of you, but who you are. Because everyone in that role is going to be different and bring different things to the table. So, identity stability, clarity. Are you leading out of clarity? Are you leading out of identity stability? Moving from people pleasing, I got to please everyone, to purpose driven living. I am purpose driven. I know who I am and I know what I do best and how I can bring the most impact to an organization, to my relationships, to myself. How do you keep yourself healthy and whole? Again, that's unique. Not everyone on this call is going to do the same personal rituals to stay healthy and whole. That's part of the cool thing about individuality. Okay, presence, key component presence. What is presence? Presence is energy management. I think I would encourage you to think about your energy management over time management. That's why I said this isn't, I'm not going to give you the secrets to how to have an amazing calendar because I think calendars, we try to solve work-life balance with calendars instead of going, well, how much energy do I have? What am I bringing energy to? I can have all the blocks and all the to-do lists and all the tasks mapped out, but if I'm not bringing energy, if I'm not bringing focus, it doesn't matter what I attend or what I give myself to, what I block out on my calendar. It's going to be worthless. How do you start to go, I only have this much energy and I need to when I show up to something, whether that's a project, a meeting, an event, whatever it is, I'm ready. I'm bringing my full self. I'm totally engaged because I know why I'm here and I know what I bring to the table. Man, how would that change? And to be able to have conversations, maybe you're not, maybe you're not the director in charge. People are calling meetings and you feel like the pressure to show up. What would it look like to have a conversation with the director and go, I think this is not my best. Like I want to serve the organization best. I want to bring my A game, but I'm a part of these things that are a waste of my time, a waste of the organization's time. How can we assess? How can we have honest conversations about how we can actually be giving ourselves to the things that matter most? I think this is where good communication comes in. Presence, energy management over time management. How do we move from tension to intention? How do you have a life of intention? So what you give yourself to has zeal, has focus. Then the final thing is endurance, because you can't just be zealous all the time. You run out. Even doing the best things, even if you did only give yourself to the best things with total identity stability and a focus on energy management, you still get tired. You're still human. So what do you do? How do you have recovery practices that restore your capacity? Hear this. How do you have recovery practices that are not an escape from reality? This is the issue. There's nothing wrong with binging some Netflix or just tuning out. But I think society as a whole, it shows us that we are not in any kind of energy management. Our recovery practices are more an escape from reality. They're just staring at walls and filling our minds as we sit on a couch and just bleh. And I think again, we'll talk about this next month in the burnout. I think some of that is less about we're so overwhelmed and so tired, and more about we are not giving ourselves to things that matter. We do not see how what we are spending our time doing is actually having impact. And in a municipal world of bureaucracy and a lot of, parts that can kind of feel like, does this really matter? Is this going to even happen? I think we have to be honest about some of that. Okay, rest is not quitting, it's not giving up, it's not tapping out. Recovery is not just avoidance, it's not going numb. Slowing down is often a leadership move. We just went through this week in the MLDC the book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. I'd love to hear anyone, maybe in the chat, put a. How many of you thought it was a good book? Any insights that, or not any insights, but did you resound with that? Did anything help you see that, like, man, there was that there was some convicting there. I feel like maybe I live a life that's very busy. Maybe I do have too much hurry in my life instead of feeling like, how am I slowing down? How am I taking time to really be present? Oh yeah. Okay. Let's go to the workbook. Go to the workbook. Okay, in the workbook, there's two questions I want you to think about. Number one, what is one thing that drains your capacity more than you admit? One thing that drains my capacity more than I admit. Be honest. What is it? Is there a meeting? Is there a relationship? Think about that. Maybe there's the coworker that continually, every time you have to meet with them, it just drains you. Just be honest. Like, I think that part of assessing your reality is just being honest. That doesn't mean that that's a bad person or this is a crappy part of your job. I think you just have to start being honest. Like, what drains your capacity? What are the things that kind of you look at and you go, gosh, man, this it's a big why. It's not a healthy why. It's a why. Um, that's too much to understand or appreciate. Yes, right. Dumb people. It's hard. It's hard to be a person. I always thought like it's hard to be a smart person. I don't think I'm smart anymore. I just think I'm a person whose brain works. It's hard to have a brain that works inside of a world that it just feels like a lot of people's brains are shut off. What's one thing that drains your capacity? And what's one thing that restores your capacity, but you are pushing to the side? I think that's a really good question, especially for you as leaders, especially you as servant leaders who just want to give, who want to pour out, who want to be on. Again, I resonate with this being as a pastor for so long. It's very missional work to want to serve people in the highs of life and the lows of life. But guess what that means? You oftentimes justify neglecting yourself. And so I want you to think about what ways would restore you that you keep pushing aside. You keep saying, I'll get to it, when I have time. What are those things? What are those things? Having your tasks done restores you. That's why I'm always a written, I write everything. I mean, I do have digital tools, but I love writing things off and crossing them off. Did this today. I just love seeing, oh, I actually did stuff. Oh, I got distracted. I did stuff, but it wasn't the most important stuff, right? It's just good to assess, good to be mindful. Okay, keep going. The leader's inner posture. I talked to you about framework and posture. I want you to look at that picture of that leader. Is that how many of you, that's your posture, is just reacting? Oh, another email. Oh, another thing I have to respond to. Another thing I have to do. Right? Versus think about, will you do this right now? When you're sitting in your chair, will you just lean back? Maybe throw your arms back and just give a good stretch. Feel that center. You're just stretching. Oh, and then just sit. Sit straight up. How'd that feel? Does it kind of feel like, kind of back in control? Kind of, feels good. Versus like, we just continually, our day goes on and we can just get, our posture continues to get worse and worse and worse with the weight of leadership. How do we shift our focus from external fixes, which I think a lot of us, you're inundated. Everyone's hawking their new calendar, their new tool to get ahead, to be a more effective leader, to be a healthier leader. How do we, again, those aren't bad. I'm just saying, I think there's a lot of external fixes that we're trying instead of looking at an internal leadership posture. How do we fix our internal posture? Here's a couple things I want you to chew on. Hurry is not a badge of honor. It's a warning sign. How many of you, when you go to like you go to a meeting, you'll go to a conference with other municipal leaders, and people are, oh, how you doing? And how many of you, your response is, I'm busy. I'm busy. Oh, I'm surviving. That was like my response forever. In fact, I'll still default to that. And I think that we're trying to signify that we are again, look, I'm busy. I'm important. I'm doing significant things. Notice me. It's one of the signs that you're probably in a leadership position where you're not noticed much, or you don't feel much appreciation. When you start using that language, I'm busy, I'm tired, I'm surviving. But here's the thing, it's a very reactive position instead of a proactive position. I want you to think about that. How much in your life is reactive versus proactive? I think a reactive life is a stress-filled life. It's a life of overwhelm. It's a life that moves in leaning towards burnout. A reactive life versus a proactive life. A proactive life is an intentional life. It's a life with boundaries. It's a life where you say yes and no clearly, not based out of what you want, but who you are and why and what you give to a position, to opportunities. It's built out of identity stability. Hurry is not a badge of honor. Focus, being able to focus, truly focus, is a form of respect for your team so that they can have clarity as to where we're all rowing to and why it's important. Focus is a form of respect for the decisions that you make, that you can actually give yourself the time necessary to make an effective decision. Doesn't mean you're taking, forever because you've got to get the decision perfect, but you are taking the time required and necessary to make good decisions, especially in your role as a leader. Focus is a form of respect for yourself. It allows you to respect yourself, that you are a person who's still human, but wants to deliver impact. Endurance beats intensity in public service. Let me say that again. Your endurance is better than your intensity because the city's still going to be there tomorrow. The city is going to long outlive you. You're going to retire one day, and I hate to break this to you, but you will be forgotten no matter how significant you are. Even if they make statues out of you, give it one generation, give it 1 year, give it 1 month. You'll be forgotten. You'll be replaced. Someone else will come in. And that's okay. That doesn't mean it's not good work. It's not significant work. It doesn't matter. It just means that we're on a giant floating space ball as particles of space dust. Like we're just not as important. That doesn't mean we don't work hard, we don't give ourselves, because I think what we do is important. But it's just not worth killing yourself over. It's not worth living unhealthy, because the reality is when you live in an unhealthy way because you feel this weight, you're actually not doing impactful work. I think you're actually impacting things for the worse. So, how do we reframe? You cannot be, nor should you be available to everyone. You do need to be present where you are most needed. Think about that in your role, in your responsibilities, and what you are tasked specifically to do. Are you showing up to be present where you are most needed? Here's a slide. Here's a key question I want you to think about. What would change in this year ahead in 2026 if you led from capacity instead of depletion? Think about if I could install a fuel gauge into the center of your chest, Iron Man style, what would it, what, if you reflected and assessed over this last year, how many of you would be always in the red on that gauge? You'd always be right. You'd always be, I don't know where I'm pointing, where you see. You'd always be in the red. And I think we kind of find a badge of honor in that. Oh man, I'm significant because I'm always tired. I don't sleep much. I don't. The reality is, how many do you think good decisions, do you think great decisions are being made in the red? Do you think impact professionally, relationally, in the other areas and aspects of your life, personally? Um, do you think the best life that you could live is happening in the red? And yet, how many leaders feel kind of a badge of honor because we live in the red? Hmm. Bill says the difference between thriving and just surviving. Yeah, I want you to thrive. And not just because so you can feel better about life. I mean, I want you to thrive personally because, I think that's my thing. I want to care for leaders. But I want you to thrive. Here's the big thing. When leaders thrive, organizations thrive. The people they lead thrive. And their impact is actually significant. The things you touch thrive. Healthy things grow, dying things decay. And I really believe, because I've seen it in my own leadership, I thought I was leading well. I thought that the outward signs, I was a pastor of a large church. I was known in the community. I had all the signs of significance. And when I really peeled away the onion and looked at the health of the organization, it was not good. It was not healthy. It was not something I was proud of the way people were actually at their deepest and in their truest responding and acting. It was an organization that carried my stress, and that was not healthy. It was super convicting. Okay, how do we make some shifts? So here's now how we get really practical with this workshop today. Here's what I want you to think about. I want you to make some commitments. I want you to think about one expectation you feel that you can release. What's one thing you're carrying that you just need to let go of? Maybe it's a meeting. Maybe it's a project. Maybe it's just the way someone sees you, the interactions there, what you feel, expectations you feel. Maybe it's part of your schedule, having to be the first one in, last one out, having to be the sign of the person who's always on. Maybe it's communication, having to feel like you always have to respond to texts and emails at all hours of the night. What's one expectation? And maybe here's the thing to think about. Is it an actual expectation that has been communicated through paper, through right actual vocalization, or is it an assumption? Isn't is it an assumed expectation? What's one thing you need to release in the year ahead that would automatically, if that was off your shoulders, out of your head, you could just take a deep breath. What's one? What is one practice that you need to protect for your own well-being, for your own energy, so that you can restore energy? Maybe this is something personally that you need to protect. Maybe it's something relationally. Maybe you have too long. Here's one of the dangers, especially as someone who's done thousands of hours of counseling. I'll just say this, you know this, but we take advantage of the relationships that are closest to us. And so the reason there will forever be a need for marriage counselors is because we take advantage of that relationship. We expect grace to be given in that relationship. We ask of that relationship what we would never ask of the citizens that we serve, of relationships maybe between staff and council dynamics, like the way, think about that. People that you could be out of relationship with tomorrow, we treat with a higher regard, a higher esteem, more service than we do the people closest to us, spouse, children, even. The people we actually, if we looked at it on a map, we want the most impact with, we want the most connection to. And yet, those are the relationships that often suffer because of our professional activities. And again, I'm not saying that it's a clean, black, white, yin yang kind of thing. I'm saying that you got to look at your life. And this is why one of the exercises I do in the big keynote I give is to think about your obituary, to think about your memorial service, to think about the people you would want to come up and speak in remembrance of you. And what would they say? What do you want them to say? And are you living in a way that they would actually say that? Mm. There's some things to show on. What's one standard to replace? What's one internal standard that you've put upon yourself that you need to replace? A value that you feel, maybe a belief. What's one thing that you need to replace because it's just not serving you anymore? It's not healthy. One unrealistic expectation, one recovery practice, one internal standard. Think about that. Think about this. Well-being is not separate from leadership. Well-being is not separate from leadership. It is leadership, especially in roles that demand so much. And I believe the roles of local government leadership do demand a lot. Okay, here we go. Final thing. What was your biggest takeaway from today? What thing stood out to you the most? I want you to fill up the chat. I want to look at the chat. What's something that stood out today that really resonated with you, that got your mind to think, something that you'll take away from today? Take a few moments and let me know in the chat what you sense. If you're watching the recording of this, take a moment. Maybe you email me, Seth@haltingwinter.com. Email me your biggest takeaway from today if you're watching the recording. I'd love to hear what you're chewing on, what stood out, what resonated the most. Focus is a form of respect. This is the real Laura Swain. Hi, real Laura Swain. Focus is a form of respect. I like the perspective of endurance beats intensity in public service. Charlie, yeah. Endurance beats, and the pressure is, it feels right back to the very beginning. You have so much going on, you have so much being thrown at you. It can feel like you've got to have that, you've got to be a sprinter. And the reality is, all leadership is more of a marathon. It's still a race, you're still running, You can't just sit at the sideline. You got to be active, but you got to find the pace. And I think it's a unique marathon because there are moments when there is sprint, right? I mean, Charlie, Washington State just went through incredible flooding. And I mean, the stress. I mean, I think Cedar Woolley had some of that. And I mean, you just feel the overall, how do we protect? How do we serve? How do we engage? And you can't be like, sorry, I'm in a marathon. I got to keep my pace. Like you've got to be able to pick up the pace and sprint. And yet, how many times do we go through something like that where we're sprinting and then we just never stop sprinting. We never pull back. We never take a pit stop to grab the energy bar and restore energy. We just keep going. Uh, this is Dawn. Know who I am and what I do best. Yes, the clarity. Who are you? What are you bringing to the table? What are you wired to? Not just your role, but again, each of you bring different strengths to your position and to the organization. So really, really living out of that. Mark Mondell, work-life balance is unrealistic because it depends upon others to agree to that shared goal, right? So instead, focus on ways to expand your capacity. That's so good. Yeah, we have to be we have to be careful of both our brains that we live out of a lot of assumptions instead of real expectations, not even expectations, but just real realities. There's a lot that goes on between these human ears that I think is not helpful to us. And the more we can get that down on paper and really reflect on that, chew on that, and bring that to deal with that, work through that, we'll become healthier people. Um, Christine, the importance of being present where you are most needed. At times, it's hard to determine where that is. Isn't that true? It is hard. And you'll never nail it, just like a major league batting average. But I think it's important to assess, am I necessary here? Is this the best use of my time? Can I give this? I think for leaders, especially, Christine is the leader in the seat. If you're a city manager, if you're a county administrator, you feel the pressure because your presence, right? When you show up, it does like, oh, well, the big dog is here. And so I get that. But the issue is, how can you give some of that away? How do you encourage others to take the lead? How do you share? Because again, if we really want to be impactful leaders, it's not just about you, it's about developing other leaders. And the way you develop other leaders the best is you give away not just, what do they say? What's the word? It's not empowerment. I don't really like empowerment. I love ownership. If I give you ownership, you own it and you get to own how to be creative with it. Empowerment oftentimes is I'm telling you to go be me, just be a replica of me and make decisions that I would make, or these are the things you need. Only speak, it's like they're little minions and replicas of us. That can kind of be empowerment. I love ownership, right? Jocko Willink, extreme ownership. I want to give you ownership because I want to give you the ability to make your own decisions out of your own strengths. I'm trusting you with that. I'm developing you towards that. Max, my biggest takeaway is that we have to assess our expectations. We define who we are by what we let occur and by what we do. What we let occur. It's true. Yes, you have to balance the political versus administration. Again, these are the municipal realities. This is what I hope is you guys this year are in the MLDC. One of the I think there's a section over on the left in the Circle platform that's just kind of discussions. Like this is great places just to be able to chew on things together. I hope it's a safe environment for you guys to do that. So use that. Luke Dyer, I definitely must let some things I'm working on go. Yes, either completely or have someone else pick up the ball. I love the baseball reference. 331 doesn't need to be 1,000. It's so true. And especially for you, Luke, you are doing incredible things. I mean, I think I mentioned it on almost every podcast. I'm so inspired by you, Luke, and what you're doing in Van Buren. But the issue is, again, your context, you just have to be honest. It's smaller, which means there's less people to go with you. I think you've increased that. Your zeal and your energy have increased that, but you're not able, a great leader who's passionate just can't do all the things that you want to do. That's my dilemma right now. Just be honest with you. I have so many things I want to do with the podcast, with this leadership program, with my speaking. I have this great, cool idea. In fact, if we have time, maybe I'll share it with you. I have this cool idea, but I'm like, how do I balance it? How do I, okay, Seth, you got to stop offering all these things. And so, okay, are you doing what you're doing now the best, the most? Learning how to carry the tension. Yeah, how do you carry that? How do you just be honest with that and be okay with that? Not let it stress you, but to go, these tensions I choose to carry. Here's the big thing about tension. When you make a conscious choice, these are the tensions I carry, and I know why I'm carrying them. Guess what? Tension now has moved to intention. Tensions that I carry, I'm going to shed those. I'm going to have conversations with people about how to shed tensions that do not serve me or the organization, because that's the big thing. Everyone wants to make the organization more impactful. I think, I hope. If you're not, then maybe you shouldn't be a part of that organization. But if we're all on the same mission of how do we make the organization more impactful, I think it allows then your conversations to be about that. I don't think, let's have a conversation. This doesn't look like I'm carrying a stress here, and I don't know why. I really can't bring impact here. I'm not the best person for this, but here's what I can do. Here's what I think where I can bring impact. How do you get rid of some of the tensions that aren't serving you and the organization? How do then you go, these are the tensions I want to carry so that you can become intentional about your actions? Okay. Okay. Yep, Max. We're gonna end here. I'm gonna leave with this. Here's your final thing. Next month, Thursday, February 19th. Get it on your calendars, 9 a.m. Dealing with burnout for yourself and your team. What really is burnout? How do we how do we know the signs of it for ourselves? But really, as leaders, you've got to know the signs for your team. Like I said earlier, when you function, many of you leaders function like an F1 Formula race car, and then you expect your team that are like, Toyotas, Mercedes to operate like that. They don't. And so, how do you make sure that you're leading in a way that not only isn't undermining the culture you want to create, but also is aware so that you can see how to push and pull that rubber band to create a healthy organization where people can last, where people can endure, where people can experience those three components that we talked about today: identity, uh, energy, and endurance. Okay. Uh, you don't need to, you don't need a better calendar. You need a better relationship with the roles and responsibilities you're carrying. There it is. You don't need a better calendar. You need a better relationship with the roles and responsibilities you're carrying. All right, my friends, it has been great to join you. As always, if you have any feedback, email me, seth@haltingwinter.com. Would love to connect. I will see you on the MLDC platform. Let's rock and roll there. And as always, if I can do anything to serve you, I'm in your corner, trying to be your biggest fan, and love you guys. Take care and enjoy some rest this weekend. We'll see you.